Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Hope everybody out there is having a great Tuesday, despite how dreary it is in the Music City today. But should be a fun show. We got Nick Frazier in for his usual Tuesday appearance.
Tony Tuesdays.
Tony Tuesdays. I don't know how we got to that, but
I think because everybody in my family's named Tony. And
okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, but
Italian.
But like Lorenzo's your middle name, right?
Right. So, yeah. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. Tony Tuesdays for now.
I like it. Tony Tuesdays, even though your name's not Tony, and nothing to do with it. We got plenty to get to on the show today. Lots of Titans talk. What is there to hope for with the Titans? I asked that question. We'll get into that later on. Also, some big news in college basketball. Big weekend of college football ahead. We'll get to all of it. But Monday Night Football last night lived up to the hype. Lions and Ravens. Lions get the win on the road. Derrick Henry, 3 straight weeks with a fumble now. And he still looks great. He had the early touchdown run, but a fumble in the clutch twice in 3 games, and the Ravens now fall to 1-2.
Yikes. It makes you wonder what is the future going to hold for Baltimore? Are they going to figure this out, or is this going to be a continuous thing for them? Because they're showing Derrick Henry right now on the television. He just, I don't want to say he looks defeated, but definitely
he was very frustrated after that fumble. Like he kind of flailed onto the bench a little bit. Like you could tell how much that hurt him to fumble in that moment, because again, he did the exact same thing against the Bills in week 1 and it cost them the game. This one, they were losing at the time, but it really kind of put the game away. The Lions, Dan Campbell, showing it again. Pull out the wheelbarrow for Dan Campbell because, he 4th down late in the game, chance to give the Ravens good field position with a chance to go tie it, and instead he gets the 1st down. David Montgomery scores a couple plays later, and boom. Lions get the victory. They're 2-1.
I've realized about the Lions so far this season that David Montgomery, people need to give him a little more respect in the backfield. Like, he's not just your goal line punching in the end zone. He had a great run last night for 40, 50 yards?
70 yards.
70? Is that what that was? I mean, I think teams are starting to hone in on how Jahmyr Gibbs plays out of the backfield. I mean, he's that more lighter back. He didn't have that much muscle on him, so he can't go ground and pound through the offensive line, kind of, bounce him out to the outside. But I just think David Montgomery is one of those underrated backs that needs a little more appreciation.
I agree. That is a good 2-headed monster they have back there. And I know Gibbs gets most of the headlines because he's the big fantasy back and he makes the big plays out of the backfield. I picked him to be my offensive player of the year this year. And he's gotten off to a good start. Maybe not that quite to that level, but I like Jahmyr Gibbs, but yeah, David Montgomery, he's been doing it for a while now and doing it at a high level. So yeah, shout out Monty, I believe is what they call him up there in Detroit.
I think Detroit's figuring it out too, offensively.
I agree. I think it took them a week with Ben Johnson moving on, new system. You got to get used to the new play caller, but the last 2 weeks, they've looked really good. Like just boat raced the Chicago Bears in week 2. And then last night, you go into a really tough environment at night to face a Super Bowl contender, and you win in pretty significant fashion. I understand it was kind of a garbage touchdown at the end to go win it, or to extend that lead. But this Lions team looks like they can compete at the top of the NFC again. Packers took a step back this week with that loss to the Browns, but I think you can firmly put the Lions back in that top tier conversation with the Packers, the Eagles. And I know the Rams blew a 19-point lead over the weekend, but the Rams, I think, would still be in that conversation too.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if it was this show or maybe the weekend show that I mentioned about Jared Goff. I pick him over any other quarterback in the NFC. I'm sticking to that, by the way. Jared Goff, for me, is my quarterback of the NFC.
Really?
This guy can lead you to a Super Bowl.
I like Jared Goff, and I think I've mentioned this on the show before. I went on a Detroit sports talk show last year when the Lions played the Titans. They just asked somebody to come on and preview it. And I was like, actually, our old friend Trent Valley, who worked here, he's a producer on the show, and he asked me to come on. Anyway, we had a conversation about, he's like, what are your thoughts externally about Jared Goff as someone not from Detroit? And I was like, he's a guy who can if you put the right pieces around him, he can be a really good player and he can get you in the NFC. He can get you to where you want to go, but he's not an MVP level player. And the host was like super offended, was like, how can you say Jared Goff's not an MVP level player? And I realized they believe in Jared Goff in Detroit like Nashville used to believe in Ryan Tannehill. It's like you'd see all the graphics of here are Ryan Tannehill's stats against Patrick Mahomes' stats over the last 20 games, and Titans fans would be like, Ryan Tannehill is the best quarterback in football. That's how Detroit feels about Jared Goff. I mean, they do the Jared Goff chants at all of their sporting events. It doesn't matter if it's Lions, Tigers, Red Wings, Pistons. So I agree with you. I do like Jared Goff, but I think it is one of those things where it's like the national narrative about him will never actually match the narrative of the people who watch him every week.
Yeah, that local aspect.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like as Titans fans watched Ryan Tannehill play every week. And from when he took over in 2019 to the Bengals game in 2021, like you could argue he was one of the better quarterbacks in football. Statistically, the way he played. But the national narrative after what happened in Miami was always going to be that, oh, he's just a game manager type of guy.
Yeah, he's just going to get you a certain amount of wins and call it a day type thing.
Yeah. I mean, I do like Jared Goff. And in the NFC, I've said it before, the AFC is the quarterback conference. The NFC is the roster conference. And I think if you can put the right roster around Jared Goff, he could get you to the Super Bowl. I mean, they were up 3 scores against the 49ers a couple years ago with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. So we'll see what works out in the NFC. In the AFC, Ravens 1-2, Chiefs 1-2. They play next week. That is a huge game for playoff positioning. I think both those teams end up making the playoffs, but if you're the Chiefs and you fall to 1-3, or you're the Ravens and you fall to 1-3, things start, the battle becomes a lot more steep to get back to where you want to be at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I'd give the edge to Baltimore right now, even though they've had the yips with Derrick Henry fumbling the ball, but I'd still give them the upper edge against Kansas City, primarily because Kansas City beat the Giants on Sunday Night Football. I wouldn't count that as a win that proved to me that they can figure it out.
They didn't look all that impressive either. Like they pulled away down the stretch, but like it was 6-6 late in the second quarter or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know. The Chiefs don't look great to me right now.
Yeah, and the Chiefs too. And I'm a run first type guy. Their run game isn't good. Like they can't figure things out with Pacheco. They're not getting much on the ball with that. And nonetheless, when you can't establish a good run game, your passing game can't be good either. So,
right.
Like with Baltimore, they have a good run game, and they established that early last night with Derrick Henry. Nonetheless, it didn't get them the win, but they're still looking off talent wise, they have the better talent right now showing on the field.
Yeah, and that'll be a big game next week. Ravens and Chiefs again. One of those teams going to be 1-3. I think the Bills might run away with the 1 seed in the AFC with what we've seen so far. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Brandon in Hermitage on the text line says, Jake, please tell me you have an MLB segment coming up today. I don't. There's no MLB on the grid. We talked MLB yesterday, but I will take these 2 minutes at the end of this segment to say I have my Tigers sweatshirt on here. They have completely thrown away what was a great first 3.5 months of the season. You have a chance to get it all back in these next 3 days and win the division. It starts tonight. Tarek Skubal on the mound. You have to win this game. If they lose tonight, I'm giving up. It's over. I mean, at that point, Cleveland will have clinched the tiebreaker. It would be even in the division, and Tarek Skubal's not pitching again. So win tonight, Tigers. Beat the Guardians. That's all I have to say on it today.
I'm praying for you.
It's been so frustrating for the last 2 weeks. To go from 9.5 games up to 1 game up in 12 days is absolutely insane. So that's all I have to say on it today. Just win. Just win, baby. Tarek Skubal needs to go out there and prove why he's the Cy Young and get the Tigers some cushion back in the division. That is all the baseball talk for today. We will spend most of the rest of the show on football. The Titans, Brian Callahan spoke yesterday after another disappointing loss on Sunday against the Colts. And I have one question. Where is the hope for the Titans? And we're going to spend most of the show on that question today. We're going to start with the coaching. We're going to look ahead at what might happen in the future, and then we'll get to the roster with the Titans, because Good teams sell results, bad teams sell hope. Right now, I don't know what there is to hope for with the Titans outside of the quarterback in Cam Ward. We will talk about all of that coming up. Also, big news in college basketball yesterday and a huge night in college football on Saturday. Also, I didn't put it on the grid, but we will talk Mississippi State, Tennessee today. We've got our resident Bulldogs fan, Nick Frazier, our resident Vol, Parker Kelly.
I'll leave it up to the audience if they want to see Frazier and I fight on the live stream. We can throw on the boxing gloves.
Yeah. I think maybe we need a pay-per-view here between Nick Frazier and Parker Kelly. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll talk Titans coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 1025 The Game. That was Brian Callahan yesterday. I thought a really good question by TD because that's the elephant in the room. Lots of boos yesterday. Sunday. Booed Burke Hill, booed the ownership group during the Mike Keith ceremony. What was Brian Callahan going to say there? I mean, I was very interested to know what his thoughts were on a message to the fans. And really, I mean, I didn't hate the answer, but it's like, yeah, obviously you got to go win a football game, but you're 3-17 as a head coach.
Yeah, it's primarily just compartmentalizing the schedule at this point. I mean, if I'm a head coach, that's what I'm doing week in and week out. It's just like this 3-game road trip. I even mentioned this before the season began. You have to compartmentalize that 3-game road trip into how do we effectively get certain outcomes here, an outcome in your second game of that road trip. And then the third game, like we need certain guys healthy for these type of matchups.
Yep.
I think if you're Brian Callahan, you have to do stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure he is. But he mentioned in that same comment that we're going to do everything we can to turn this around. Meaning, like, if one guy is playing terrible, dish off from him. Like, you don't have to use him. Like, there was something else in that press conference about Calvin Ridley and saying, we're not going to deviate away from Calvin. Like, he's going to have to prove that he's still a good wide receiver. For me, if you're going to do everything at all costs to win a football game and he's not making catches, bye-bye. Find somebody else. I know Joe, and I've kind of
I was about to say, are you getting on the strep?
Yeah, catch a strep, baby. It's a sickness you want to have, really. Like, that's a guy that has a lot to prove, and meaning a lot to prove. He'll go in the middle of the field and catch a football. If it's a hospital ball from Cam Ward, he'll go catch it. I don't think Calvin Ridley, and Joe's made a great point. I think Calvin Ridley is afraid to catch a ball over the middle. I really do. And I don't want to, transition this into a Calvin Ridley hate segment, but like, that's kind of one of the primary reasons why the Titans are not moving the ball that well is because half the targets going to Calvin Ridley are drops. And if you're Brian Callahan, you're thinking there's nothing else I can do. If I'm calling the right calls and it is an open pass and he drops it, what else do I do as a head coach?
Yeah, we went through it yesterday of 38%, I think, is the completion percentage when Cam Ward has targeted Calvin Ridley this year. Hasn't been good enough. I don't know if I'm fully on catching the strep yet. I don't know if he's the answer, but
there's a cool breeze in the air, Jake. You might be catching the strep. You never know.
Maybe, but I don't know if we're there yet. I think if you're going to insert young players into the lineup, Bryce Oliver's hurt right now. Hopefully he's back, but I'd like to see it be more Oliver, DK, Iamaner than bringing Strep off the practice squad. But I think at some point this season, you probably do get to that point if you're 1-8 and it's like, you know what? Why not just see what Xavier Restrepo can do? I don't think we're there yet.
If they bring up Restrepo, I think it's for the Patriots game. I think that alleviates some of the boos. Really.
Yeah.
I do. I think if Cam Ward completes his first pass as Xavier Restrepo against the Patriots, not looking too far into the future, I think a lot of that crowd changes from boos to cheers pretty quick.
Yeah. So. No, I agree. I don't know if I'm quite on the Xavier Restrepo train yet.
Brian Callahan has the worst record as a head coach in his tenure. Like, what else is there to hope for? You mentioned hope at the beginning of this segment. There is no hope for this team.
Yep.
Like, the only thing I mentioned was compartmentalizing the schedule. After that, there's nothing.
I mean, you have hope with the quarterback. That is the one thing, is that you hope the quarterback becomes a franchise guy who can compete at the highest levels. But you have to be able to put a team around him. You have to have a coach who can maximize his potential. And you mentioned Brian Callahan has the worst record, minimum 20 games. I did not think that was a real stat. Like, I saw the graphic and I kind of just thought it was fake. It was somebody making something up. But no, it is true. He has minimum 20 games. He has the worst winning percentage in NFL history among head coaches. And I know Paul Kaharski put out yesterday that there are other coaches who have had worse or the same 20 games start as Brian Callahan, but they all had the opportunity to get better, and they got their winning percentage up above 15%, where Brian Callahan sits right now. It has not been good, and I agree with what Brian Callahan's saying is, like, you win one game, and maybe these things start to go away. Maybe you can start to get it in the right direction. But based on what we've seen, what confidence do you have that they are going to win one game?
I mean, you're going up against Arizona that's now missing James Conner.
We got Houston first.
I know. I'm just saying in that 3-game stretch,
Right.
like I'm already see Houston beating the Titans. Like I'm already past that.
Well, it is funny. Houston is 0-3, and
Yeah.
they are a touchdown favorite over the Titans. Like I don't know if that's ever happened before that a winless team has had a touchdown spread over another team, because I mean that's how bad the Titans have been.
Look, I know people out there probably think Houston's a bad ball club because they're 0-3. I don't think so. I think it's been a lot of CJ Stroud's decision making that's really cost them for the most part. I don't know what's going on with CJ Stroud because he's kind of fallen off a cliff a little bit, but they got Woody Marks in the backfield. They got Nick Chubb, Nico Collins. They got all these good players. They're moving the ball a little bit. It's just they're not putting it all together yet. And I think it's just something with the decision making from CJ Stroud right now. And if he can figure that out, I think they'll be back on track. Are they a playoff team? I don't know because they're 0-3 now, but I still think they're light years ahead of the Titans.
Texans have scored the least points in the league this year. But again, right, you look at the team on paper and say, who do you think is going to figure this out? Probably Houston.
Yeah.
And the Titans, if you get to 0-4 and you lose to Houston, which is, I know I heard Chase and Big Joe talking about this yesterday, that Houston is, that is a team that you're not supposed to lose to. If you're the Tennessee Titans, like you do not lose to the Houston Texans. I start to wonder if maybe that could be it. But honestly, after what we've heard, I read through the article from Easton Freeze from yesterday talking about what happened in the tunnel coming out of the locker room at halftime, and Amy Adams Strunk hearing the boos and the yells and all the calls for Brian Callahan to be fired. I'm a little surprised that she didn't pull the trigger this week. Like, I know it's early. I know it's only 3 games in, but she has been known to have a quick trigger, and it is Tuesday. Brian Callahan spoke yesterday. He hasn't been fired, but I don't know. Can he get past a loss to the hated Houston Texans? I'm not so sure.
I don't think so. And again, I think Amy Adams Strunk is saying, thank goodness they're on a 3-game away trip because I don't know if I can face the heat of this anymore. And meaning she's going to be able to kind of brush this under the rug a little bit because they're not at home. She's not going to have to listen to the boos going into a home stadium for 3 games.
Well, it's in her home.
Yeah, but I don't know if she'll be at that game. If she's at that game, then hey, good for her. Maybe she's that dedicated of an owner. I don't know, but I wouldn't see her at NRG Stadium.
I think she's going to be there. I mean, she lives in Houston. Well, that's all we talk about is that she's never in Nashville. She's in Houston.
So she might be at her local beauty salon. I don't know.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. She might just be hanging out with her friends. I don't know.
Teron Davenport, thank you to Trevor for sending this into the text line. TD tweeted last night, the Titans and Texans are both 0-3 entering week 4. Texans are 7-point favorites. A winless team was a 7-point favorite in week 4 or later only twice before in the Super Bowl era. Both were in week 4, 1994 and 1996. The Oilers were, an 8.5-point favorite over the Bengals and won by 7. The Saints were a 7.5-point favorite on the Cardinals, and the Cardinals won by 14. So neither time has the team that's been a 7+ point favorite as a winless team in week 4 or later actually covered the spread. So maybe good news for the Titans on Sunday. No, you don't think so?
Nah, not happening. No, ain't happening. I'm not to the point where I'm being negative and pessimistic that the Titans are bad. It's just this team roster-wise is so top-heavy with like starters that the depth is not there. If they don't have the depth, like you can't really put together a good product. That's the issue that I'm having to cope with is Devondre Sweat's not out there. Jarvis Brownlee's not out there. L'Jarius Sneed is somewhat out there. People have, mixed emotions about him.
Yep.
Getting there. Amani Hooker, he's been kind of beat on a few balls lately in the last couple of weeks.
Right. They just extended him.
Yeah.
Not that he's played bad, but like he had a pick 6 in his fingertips against Denver and dropped it. And he missed a tackle late in that game against the Broncos that almost cost them a chance to come back and tie the game. So, right. It's like the guys that you're expecting to be your, maybe not stars, but your top level players haven't really been performing to that level.
Yeah, and then you look at the offensive side of the ball. Again, J.C. Latham has been injured with that hip.
Yep.
We don't know what's going on with that.
We don't know when he's coming back.
And you have Dan Moore Jr. on the left side that, bless his heart, I don't know if does he have a hand issue, a feet issue? Like, is it a mental issue? Does he need glasses? I mean, this guy's letting defensive edge rushers go past him like they're just checking the slip when you leave Sam's Club, like, hey, what'd you buy there? Oh, check it off. That's what he's doing on the offensive
Walmart
line.
grader.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. I mean, Joe's mentioned it, but seriously, you have to look at this team as a whole and say, yeah, these starters, it's not it.
Well, so that brings me to a question that I had. And I'm genuinely asking this because I'm not 100% sure of the answer.
Mm-hmm.
We know this roster hasn't been good since Brian Callahan's been here. But is it 3-17 bad? Like, that's what I don't know, but I lean towards no, that this roster with some of the players they have on there should have won more than 3 games. And I do feel like at times the coach might be holding them back.
Yeah, I think that may be the case. I was listening to George Plaster last week, and they had on Terry McCormick, and he was asked the question of, Terry, do you think this team is the worst it's ever been? He goes, he said, I've seen worse. I think
I've seen worse rosters for sure.
Yeah, he said, if you look at the Wizenhunt days, that team is worse than this. And I'd have to agree to that. So looking at this roster on paper, Jake, you're right. This team should be getting more wins. As for the production on the field, it's still question marks all over.
You look at the 2015 Titans roster and their offense. Marcus Mariota was a rookie, so similar to Cam Ward. Antonio Andrews, Harry Douglas, Anthony Fasano, Craig Stevens. You did have Delaney Walker, Taylor Lewan, Quentin Spain, Andy Gallick, Chance Warmack, Byron Bell. That was your offense. I would say, and maybe this is recency bias, but I would say if you line that offense up and the Titans' current offense, at least talent-wise, I'd take the Titans' current offense. The defense may be a little bit different because you still had some veteran guys there. You had Jarrell Casey, you had Derek Morgan, you had Wesley Woodyard, Brian Arakpo, Michael Griffin was still on that team. So maybe you'd take the Titans' defense over this one, but the offense, for sure, in terms of playmakers and the offensive line, the Titans' offense should be better than it is right now. But right now, they're putting up about the same kind of production as that 2015 team was.
Yeah, and I think one small thing currently with this Titans team that you need to look forward to, and for me as somebody to watch them as well, you got to stop with the field goals. I know that's been the whole thing at halftime, whatever. I was listening to, I think it was John Gruden and Greg Olson. They were on that Wake Up Barstool show or whatever.
Right.
And they were talking, and all of a sudden, Greg Olson goes, if you're the Rams, you can't go kick the football 6 or 9 times in a football game because that's not going to win you a game.
Yeah.
You're just throwing away possessions. I think the same thing with the Titans. You're throwing away possessions. If it's 4th and 5, just go for it. You have nothing else to lose this season. Like, treat it like it's a Madden video game. Just go for it. It doesn't matter.
Well, and that's like at the end of the first half, you ran 5 straight run plays. When you had the time to go out and try and put a drive together. You're down 11 at this point. See if you can go put the ball in the end zone. Does 17-9 really make you feel all that good, especially when the Colts are getting the ball after the half? Like, you could be down 15 by the time you touch the ball next. Go. First off, don't run the ball 5 straight times in a 2-minute drill. Second, you got 4th and 1. I would say go for it over the 57-yard field goal, but that's just my opinion. And then don't take a delay game. That's
help.
A big part too.
Yeah.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. You can text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Brian Callahan also said something very interesting in his press conference yesterday. We'll get to that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Next Man Up, 1025 The Game. That was Brian Callahan yesterday, asked about possibly giving up play calling, and that's the first time he hasn't said no. So maybe that's something in the cards over the next couple of weeks. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Now, see, I understand why he would do it, right? Like, I understand why he might give up play calling, because a lot of the decision-making that you need from your head coach, your CEO of the team, has fallen through the cracks. Like, that's the issue with Brian Callahan right now. Nobody's talking about the play calling as much, even though that's been an issue too. It's more the details of managing a game as a head coach. So I understand why you would do it, but you hired Brian Callahan to be your play caller and the guy to run your offense. What is the point of keeping him around if he's not going to do that anymore?
That's a great point. Look, Brian Callahan, after listening to that clip, for me, he's listening to too many people. Like, when it comes to play calling, and I don't know if, and later in that press conference too, PK was asking, like, well, why'd you not do this? Why'd you not have this ready? Like the kicking ball ready, whatever. Right. I just wasn't ready. Stuff
right.
Like that. Like, to me, and we talked about this before the season. He needs to delegate some of his job responsibilities to other coaches. But if you're not delegating those in the right manner, and you have too much on your plate and you can't call plays and you can't be a head coach, then what's the point of calling plays?
Yeah, I mean, we talked ad nauseum about how Brian Callahan tied himself into knots about the Alec Iamaner catch in week 1 against Denver.
Right.
He was a mess yesterday. Parker, do we have the clip of Callahan going through his end of half sequence from yesterday?
Give me 1 second to find it.
Okay.
But yes, we do.
It is. I was listening to it yesterday, and I'm just like, he's doing everything he can to not just say I botched it, but like, that's basically what he's saying. It's like, well, you talk about Paul Kaharski, like, why didn't you have it ready? And it's like, well, I was still making a decision. It's like, what conversations were you having? We're going to keep those internal. It's like it's a mess. And there's kind of I don't want to say deer in the headlights look, like, that's not right, but it's just like, you can tell, like, he's just tired of having to answer for these things. But I mean, the easy solution to that is obviously just be better at it.
Yeah. Again, when he says keep everything in house, to me, and I'm just putting the puzzle pieces together. So if it's too out there, just stop me. When Nick Holtz came on with Chase McJoe, I just listened to that. It's in my brain engraved. Yeah, I just have a better vantage point and I see things better from up top, and I let Brian know certain things. To me, if you're talking to Nick Holtz up in the booth and y'all are going back and forth, like y'all are just talking about what are you having for dinner, stuff like that, you can't do that.
Yeah,
you can't do that.
Brian Callahan, this answer, I was just kind of laughing to myself hearing it yesterday. Here's what Brian Callahan had to say when he was asked about the sequence at the end of the first half. That was Brian Callahan yesterday. And TDU following up there, I thought that was a good follow-up. Like, what message does that send to your team that you don't know, you can't make a decision in that moment? And I really I don't know. I don't know where you go from here, because this is now 3 straight weeks where he's kind of botched the end of first half sequence. Like, the Rams game, it worked out, but you could tell that he had a little PTSD from going for it inside his own 10, and it ended up costing him points in Denver. So he got conservative against the Rams and got 3. I think he tried to do that again and still ended up messing it up because he couldn't get out of his own way again.
Yeah. NFL becomes, I don't know, I don't want to say it's predictable, but, NFL coaches, they tend to get in a repetition routine of like, all right, we have a 2-minute drive, try to at least get 3 points out of this. If that's Callahan's thing, dog, you got to move on from that. You really do. You get what I'm saying, though?
I get why I think he realized that he got too aggressive in Denver. So he wanted to be, he didn't want to hurt the team. So he's like, I'm going to play it conservative. We're not going to take points off the board. But he ended up doing it anyway. And it can't happen. It cannot happen if you're the head coach. Again, 2 out of 3 weeks now, we've been talking about the head coach just botching a game management decision that with how long he's been around NFL football and the amount of people that he has on his staff who should be advising him, these things just can't be happening.
If Brian Callahan, just in a fantasy land scenario, if he were to give up play calling, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. What coach would you prefer to be calling plays? You think Bo Hardegree, because he's the closest to Cam Ward?
I guess, like, I don't know what Nick Holes does, so it's like, I don't know. I think it's probably Holes if they do make a change, but I don't know if I'd feel much better about it. The only thing that would make you feel better is that at least Brian Callahan can focus on just making the right decisions when it comes to going forward on fourth down, challenging, all that kind of stuff that comes with being a head coach. Let's go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Tim has been waiting patiently. Tim, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys, enjoying the show. One of you said something a minute ago about they hired him to be the play caller. He never called plays in his life.
Oh, yeah.
So why do they think he's going to come in and be a play caller if you've never done it?
Well,
he also doesn't know the rules.
Yes, and that's a big problem. He came from the LaFleur and McVay and Shanahan tree, and you had seen guys who hadn't been play callers in the past move into head coaching roles as a play caller and have success. Kevin O'Connell is an example of that with the Vikings. He was not a play caller with the Rams. He stepped in, and look at what he does now. He's considered one of the best offensive minds in football. The Titans tried to do that with Brian Callahan. That was the point of bringing him in, was to be the offensive guru at the time to develop Will Levis, now to develop Cam Ward. And it's like, if you're taking the play calling out of his hands, then why not bring in a guy who's a better leader of men to be your head coach if that's all he's going to be?
Yeah, do it. Bring in another guy.
Like, that's my thought process, is like, you brought in Brian Callahan because of his skill as an offensive mind. At least that's what you thought. You didn't bring him in because he's such a good CEO leader, Mike Vrabel-esque type of guy who's going to get everybody to play as hard as they possibly can for him. If you're not going to have Brian Callahan call plays, go get somebody like that, because you need to be able to do one of them, right?
Brian Callahan is the Dollar General version of Kevin O'Connell. Simple as that.
But right. It's tough when you bring in a guy to be the offensive guru and your offense sucks. And that's what it has. It's been really, really bad for 20 games. Let's go back to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam in Portland is on the line. Adam, thanks for calling. What you got for us this morning?
Hey, man. So, here's the thing. So, if he were to separate from Daddy Callahan, like if you were to put Daddy Callahan in a booth and put Holtz in a booth and just let him – I don't know. You guys know how I feel about him. I've been wanting him fired since before it was cool. So I was one of the first that was like, this dude doesn't do anything. So, but I'm not going to just continue to stand on that. I'm saying if you were to separate him from Daddy, because he did say when they first started, he was like, we collab. The three of us collab on every decision, which is insane because you don't have enough time for that. Like, what if you were to just separate them, get them away from him and try something like that? Would that be an option? Like, you're not going to – you're going to end up beating Houston, and we're going to be stuck with him. That's what's going to happen. Crying Callahan will come back. He'll end up crying in the press conference saying, oh, we needed it. Like, so we're going to be stuck with him. But if you're going to be stuck with him, why not get him away from Daddy and let him make the decisions?
Are we just putting Nick Holes and Bill Callahan in solitary confinement during these games? It's like, hey, you're not allowed to speak to Brian Callahan during this. As soon as that clock starts running, we're turning your headset off. You cannot talk to Brian. Is that what we're doing?
the way Adam says Daddy Callahan just has me cracking up.
I do like it.
It's like he's dropping him off at daycare or something.
Daddy Callahan.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance the Titans win this weekend, but it doesn't change anything. Brian Callahan is, I will put it out there that Brian Callahan is not going to be the head coach week 1 of next year. And I know there are Titans fans out there who want him gone now. And I would probably be with you that I feel like it's better to just rip the Band-Aid off and maybe Cam Ward is going to have to develop under Bo Hardegree and Nick Holtz only, but I don't know if Brian Callahan's really helping his development all that much. He may be. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But is there really a big difference between firing him in week 5 and at the end of the year? Like,
Yes.
what is that difference?
That difference is if there are other teams that end up winning and the Titans have the worst record, then you can fire him.
Yeah.
Then you can build new chemistry with Cam Ward and whoever else wants to develop.
Right. I mean, I don't know exactly what the difference is between firing him now. Like, is 12 weeks of Mike McCoy or Bones Fossil leading this team going to really help them in the long run?
Maybe.
I mean, I get it.
Culture-wise.
As soon as he loses the locker room, like that's when he'd have to go. Like if you can tell that he's lost the locker room, you gotta pull the plug. But they're gonna have a new head coach next year. At this point, it's just a matter of when they make the move. Like I don't see any way for Brian Callahan to save his job.
And look, if Callahan stays the whole season, in my personal opinion, I think it's kind of hurting Cam Ward a little bit in his development. Because look, you have a head coach at this point that's lost the locker room, that knows he's a dead man walking.
I don't know if I say he's lost the locker room yet.
I'm in the camp he might be.
The Pittman quote was interesting on Sunday, but I also agree with Brian Callahan and what he said about that yesterday. He was asked about it. It's like, when you win, you get to control the narrative. So he can say whatever he wants. We didn't win, so there's not much we can really say.
That's fair. I mean, I'm just in the camp of it. This team doesn't look like they want to play football. Simple as that. Like,
yeah.
Cam Ward even looked sluggish yesterday. I mean, yesterday, I keep thinking today's Monday.
I know.
Sunday, like that whole interception to Kenny Moore was what, the first play of the game, second play of the game, third play of the game. Like that's bad. Like, I get rookies will make mistakes, but when you have a head coach, and again, I'm going to this narrative, if he has lost the locker room, he's, like we've said before, dead man walking. This guy is kind of knows his time is up for the most part. If you're checked out up here mentally, what does that do for the youngster that's trying to make a name for himself in the NFL? He's going to have to go to his old habits of being from when he was at Miami or Incarnate Word or whatever and learn from what he's made in the past and make a name for himself, because apparently nobody on that coaching staff wants to help him out in some degree.
Yeah.
If that is the case.
Brian Callahan's not going to be the head coach next year. If you ask me what I would do, I would say pull the plug. But like, I get that at this point, there's not a huge difference between what you do now. It's not like you can bring in Joe Brady from the Bills right now to be your head coach. Like, you have to wait to hire your head coach till the end of the season anyway. So we'll see. I think there are a couple of inflection points where he could get fired. This week is one. If Amy really hates losing to Houston that much, obviously the Patriots game with Vrabel, and then the bye week. I think those are the three spots where they could pull the plug, and we'll see. If it gets past the bye week and he's still here, he's staying to the end of the season. There's no point in keeping him. 615-737-1025. Went a little long there. We will take a quick break, wrap up hour number 1 after this. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. We'll continue to talk Titans throughout the show. Going to get into some possible head coaching candidates. I know it's early. It's only September, but, we are where we are at this point. Also, talk about the roster a little bit because I just don't see a whole lot of young pieces in this core. But because we have a short segment here, I have an idea. 3 men here. Parker's married. So I'm sure Parker has spent plenty of time in a store that I will not name. No free advertisements.
More time than I care to comment on.
A store that usually it's sometimes 2 stores that are connected. One sells furniture, one sells clothes on the other side. So most people out there, I think, know what I'm talking about. I had to spend a lot of time in one of those this weekend as I was moving, and I had an idea. You've got one side with the furniture, one side with the clothes. Right in the middle, put a sports bar. That would make everybody happier, right? Like the wives and girlfriends wouldn't have to have us walking around with them complaining the entire time. And we would be excited to go. It's like, hey, do you want to go to the furniture store? Hell yeah, I do. I'll go get a beer and watch a game. And guess what? I can still be there to help you carry. Like if you buy a chair or something, I can help you carry it out. I just had this idea walking around this store this weekend, moving. We're picking out, bedding. We're picking out trash cans. We're picking out rugs. I'm like, man, just find me a spot. I'll go sit, pour me a beer, and I'll come meet you when you're done. Thoughts?
I think it's not a bad idea.
I'm putting this out there. If somebody wants to make this happen, whether it's existing or if you just make a new store, put it out there. Free of charge.
There's a local supermarket that actually has a service bar in it. Again, no shout outs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
And the fact that there are people that go on Friday afternoons, I don't think there are any TVs, but they'll just go sit, have a drink, maybe a glass of wine, whatever. It's a little odd when you're shopping, you see somebody sitting at a bar and they're just drinking away. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm here to get chips. What's going on here? But I get the concept.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of this.
Well, it was funny. When I was in Blacksburg for the Virginia Tech Vandy game a couple weeks ago, we went into a grocery store at like 10:30 in the morning, picking up stuff for the tailgate and all that kind of stuff. And I walk in, they have a bar in there, and there is a group of people tailgating at a grocery store bar, drinking IPAs at 10:30 in the morning. I was like, you know what? The European mind cannot comprehend this right now. But that just put it out there. If there's somebody out there who has the money or the power to make this happen, this is a free idea. This is Shark Tank. I'm putting it out there to the world. We want furniture, clothing stores to have sports bars in them now. It would make everybody happier. That's my TED Talk. Thanks for coming.
This.
I'd be asking my wife to go to the grocery store.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I would be doing.
Every time it's like, Jake, we need to go pick out some new furniture or new candles. It's like, would you want to come? No. But guess what? There's a sports bar there. I'm in. Anyway, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. That was a thought I had over the weekend, and I thought I should share it because guess what? It's never going to happen if we don't put it out into the atmosphere. So if anybody out there has some money, has some power, if they own one of these stores, there you go. Free idea for you right there. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We will get back to the Titans coming up next. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but if Brian Callahan is fired, where do you want the Titans to go? Maybe not specific coaches, but an archetype of a head coach. And we'll talk about some of those coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, hour number 2, a Next Man Up, coming up here on 102.5 The Game. Second hour, next man up, 102.5. The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Titans 0-3 for the second straight year, going on the road to take on Houston, who is also 0-3. The AFC South Toilet Bowl, Sunday from NRG Stadium.
Is that at 4 a.m. or midnight? Or
Yeah, it should be 4 a.m. on the CW.
That'd be great.
Just find call up the ACC and be like, hey, how do we get this game on the CW? Do you think they can push the Gilmore Girls reruns for a couple hours?
And it's only going to be in standard definition, not high definition.
Right. No, yeah. We don't want people getting too good of a look at that game. Titans at risk of going to 0-4. Again, they're starting a 3-game road trip here. The wheels are coming off if they're not already off. And again, we're asking the question of when does it make sense to fire the head coach? I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it seems likely that Brian Callahan is not the head coach next year.
Yeah.
And we talk about these different archetypes of head coach. You've got the former player, leader of men, Mike Vrabel type guy. You've got the guru offensive coordinator, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, the young up and coming coordinator, I guess is what I'd call that. And then there's kind of that in the middle of like experienced offensive mind that maybe isn't an up and comer anymore, but has been a head coach before. And I think that is where the Titans should go when they bring someone in. You need to bring in someone who you feel confident can develop Cam Ward. And you don't want to be worried about losing your play caller every single year, because that's what happens if you bring in a defensive-minded head coach, is that you're worried that your offensive coordinator is going to get poached, like what happened with Arthur Smith and
Matt LaFleur.
Like, that is what you risk by having a defensive-minded head coach, is that you're going to have to replace your play caller consistently. So I think you go somewhere in the middle, and I know it seems obvious, right? Like, it seems just too in your face for it to actually happen. I think it's going to be Mike McCarthy.
I don't know if I like that. I mean, I get the whole concept as to why it would be Mike McCarthy.
I mean, it's Brinker and him work together in Green Bay.
It's the only way Brinker saves his job.
Well, yeah, for me. No, I don't know how Chad Brinker just keeps flying under the radar, but it does seem like Amy trusts him, and he is going to be very involved in picking the next head coach again. So just using our context clues, all of our Mouska tools, I think Mike McCarthy is the guy who makes the most sense. It is an experienced guy who's been an offensive play caller before, and he has a tie to the leadership group. Like, it seems to make too much sense. And maybe they won't do that because it's so obvious. But like, if I had to guess right now who is doing an introductory press conference at St. Thomas Sports Park in about 5 months, it's going to be Mike McCarthy.
I mean, it's not a bad look. I mean, obviously that is a good, shoe-in hire in a roundabout way. I mean, for me, I think we had this conversation last week on Chase McJoe. I'm in the camp of Joe Brady.
Really?
I know he's a young guy, but I think, established himself as a good play caller for Buffalo. He could be one of those guys that could really take your offense to the next level. And nonetheless, he developed with Josh Allen in a roundabout way, if that makes sense. I think if you can do that for Cam Ward, that might be – I mean, I get it. It's the NFL. Things don't change that much when it comes to play calling. But if you're the Titans and you want that next best thing, and Brian Callahan, obviously it didn't work out for him, but you go grab a guy like Joe Brady, in my opinion.
Well, Joe Brady, he has been good with the Bills so far, but he was a disaster with the Panthers in his first go-round as the offensive coordinator. But I agree with you. I think he is going to be one of the hot names on the job market this year in terms of up-and-coming offensive coordinator. I think the Titans are going to be scared of bringing in another first-time head coach, because as much as Brian Callahan has other faults, the biggest issue with Brian Callahan is he is just in over his head with being a first-time head coach. And I get you're getting rid of the like Brady wouldn't be a first-time play caller. So that does help you. But when you're firing Brian Callahan because he's not making the right in-game decisions and doesn't seem to have a grasp of being a head coach, I feel like the Titans are going to want to bring in someone with experience. I lean McCarthy just because of the obvious ties to Chad Brinker, and he's done it a couple times. He's won a Super Bowl. If you wanted a happy medium of, hey, you're getting someone with head coaching experience and somebody who can still be that up-and-coming, creative offensive mind, do you try and get Cliff Kingsbury from the Washington Commanders?
Now that one that makes me eye roll a little bit in a good way. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I like Cliff Kingsbury. I like what he's doing in Washington, primarily because he's utilizing Deebo Samuel in a roundabout way they didn't really utilize him in San Francisco. I think he calls it the it was a certain play that he's kind of, I guess, coined as his thing. It was like a sweep motion or something. I don't know. It was something unorthodox that we haven't seen in the NFL for a while, if that's the case. But it just screams something new. It screams turning a page in the NFL play calling book. And I think that's maybe something the Titans may need.
I wouldn't hate bringing in Cliff Kingsbury. And he's worked with a number 1 overall pick before in your guy, Kyler Murray. And not saying that Kyler Murray has turned out to be this star, but like
they're 2-1.
But like he got them to the playoffs, and I think Cliff Kingsbury could end up being a decent hire. The question is whether he wants to leave Washington, because you do make yourself a little more vulnerable when you take those head coaching jobs. Like Cliff Kingsbury is the offensive coordinator. If he just does a good job calling plays, you got pretty good job security there in Washington. And so far he's been good. That team is up and coming. You've got a young quarterback who he could tie himself to for years. Like we've seen this before where, Josh McDaniels is the main example of great offensive coordinator. Every time he tries to leave Tom Brady, it ends up blowing up in his face. So I do wonder if Cliff Kingsbury would want to take a head coaching job, but I think those are the 3 guys that stand out to me. Those are the 3 I had written down: McCarthy, Kingsbury, Brady. You could go defensive, and I think if you went defensive, you look for the next Cliff Kingsbury, right, as your offensive coordinator. Yeah. Maybe that's a guy like Mike McDaniel, who, I got to say, watching that game on Thursday night, Dolphins and Bills, some of the concepts that Mike McDaniel was pulling out of his hat, they're pretty cool. Like he had a little throwback across the middle that worked out. If it doesn't work out, it looks stupid. But I wouldn't hate that idea. If you did want to go strong, defensive-minded head coach, leader of men, like a Brian Flores, who I know there's external factors of why he may not take a head coaching job. But if you did go that way, I think you'd have to find a coordinator who you feel good will be there for at least a couple of seasons, because you don't want Cam Ward going through, all right, well, he had Callahan, they fired him. Maybe had an interim coach for a little bit there. Now you bring in Mike McDaniel, or you bring in John Smith, who's this up-and-coming coordinator. I don't have a list in front of me. And he gets hired to be a head coach the next year. And now you have 4 play callers in 3 years for Cam Ward. You don't want that. I think you either have to go offensive head coach who's going to call the plays, or you bring in a guy who's kind of in need of some coaching rehab, I guess is the way you could put it. Like Cliff Kingsbury had to rehabilitate his image and now is back in head coaching conversations. You need to find a guy like that.
Yeah, and you make a great point about establishing your name again as a head coach, because the Titans right now and under Brian Callahan are doing something the Carolina Panthers started a few years back, and that's just turning their franchise into a dumpster fire. And to the point of being, when you do that, coaches don't want to come to those franchises.
Yeah.
Like Dave Canales right now, rough. It's rough. Now you go look at the Titans, same situation. Brian Callahan, it's rough. What coach really wants that? Only coaches like, I'm going to throw it out there, like a John Gruden or a Mike McCarthy who want to get back into coaching.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned Cliff Kingsbury, I mentioned Joe Brady. They're in comfortable spots right now as offensive coordinators. In those spots, I don't think they want to tarnish their name they've tried to build back up.
Yeah.
That's the issue I have.
The old adage is there's only 32 of them. And it's like, if you're going to get one of 32, odds are you're not going to turn that down. But we've seen it before. Like Ben Johnson turned down the Washington job.
Mhm.
And it wouldn't shock me if somebody was a little bit turned off by the constant turnover here in Nashville, but it is one of 32. And I agree. I think somebody who is trying to get back in would take it. And that's, I mean, it's going to be Mike McCarthy, right? Like that's kind of what it feels like. Obviously, I would bet like the field would have better odds. We're not saying that
Right.
Mike McCarthy's a minus 150 favorite, but I'd say he's the favorite at probably like plus 300, somewhere around there.
That's pretty good odds, honestly.
Right. Like it seems to make too much sense of what the Titans will want and the connection that's there. How would you guys feel about that out there? 615-737-1025. If Mike McCarthy was the guy to replace Brian Callahan, do you think that could be the right move to get this team back on track? Or are you maybe in the camp of trying to go get somebody who we haven't seen get fired twice before, which I would get? 615-737-1025 is our phone number. You can text or call. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll continue the conversation on the other side. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'd love to hear from you if you want to text or call. Having the way too early conversation about who could be the Titans' next head coach. And, you know, I hate that we're having this conversation on September 23rd. I wish we could be previewing the Texans game and actually caring about the result, but a win on Sunday doesn't change all that much, except for maybe delaying the inevitable that the Titans are going to need a new head coach, and they need to find somebody who can, first off, make the team better around Cam Ward, but also develop Cam Ward. And obviously Mike Borgonzi tasked with adding some talent to this roster as well. We mentioned 3 names: Mike McCarthy, Cliff Kingsbury, Joe Brady. And all 3 of them have kind of, they're all offensive guys, but all of them have different resumes, different aspects that you may like about them. Brady is obviously the up-and-comer. McCarthy maybe is a little bit more of a known commodity of like, yeah, is Mike McCarthy going to be, are we going to look back in 10 years and be like, man, we found the next Sean McVay? No, you know what Mike McCarthy is. Maybe you do find the next Sean McVay with Joe Brady. I doubt it, but like maybe. Cliff Kingsbury's kind of the happy medium in the middle of like still young, still not quite up and coming anymore, but he's part of that creative new age offensive tree, but he also has head coaching experience, which again, I think that is going to be number 1 on the Titans priority list when they add a new head coach, is somebody who's done this before, and we don't have to worry about them knowing the rules and knowing how to handle end of half, end of game sequences because they've done this stuff before.
Could you imagine if you go into the interview process, say you're Cliff Kingsbury and I'm Amy Adams, or I'm Chad Brinker. So Cliff, what do you know about an elbow touching in the ground in the field of play?
Yeah, Cliff, could you recite the catch rule for us pretty quickly?
And what is your 2-minute offense going into halftime? What is that looking like?
Yeah, Cliff, 2 minutes left on the clock. You're around midfield, down by 11. Over or under 4.5 straight run plays before you start throwing the ball?
Could you imagine?
It'd be an easy interview for sure.
Right.
I think all 3 of us could pass it.
Yeah. It's not the Wonderlic test. It's easier than that.
Ball on your own 7.
What are you doing here?
45 seconds left in the first half. You're up by 3. How many straight throws are you trying to make down the field?
0.
Again, I don't like bashing on Brian Callahan because, again, he is a nice guy. This isn't like Wiz and Hunt, who like we have Corey Curtis on every week. He'll be on tomorrow, and like Corey talks about how like the vibes around the programs were different. Like Brian Callahan's a really nice guy, and he seems humble enough to realize that he's made mistakes and is trying to fix them. From what I gather, Wiz and Hunt was not that way, but like. You can't be the story 2 out of the first 3 weeks and be 0-3 and be 3-17 as a head coach. Like it can't happen.
I think his, and we've kind of talked about this ad nauseum since the spring. I think his support group underneath him, like you talk about, I think Adam Portland said Daddy Callahan. Like, yeah, it's cool to have your dad on staff, but if he's not working out, like what's the point of having him around? I think the same thing for Nick Holtz, and I'm going to reiterate it again. Sound like a broken record. He's not doing anything from what we know of outside of the walls of Titans camp.
Right. I mean,
come on.
I'm sure Nick Holtz has responsibilities. Like I don't love the narrative that like all he does is get Brian Callahan coffee. Like he does have a purpose on this team. Yeah. But yes, he is not his shoes as well. He is not nearly as important as most offensive coordinators are.
I just think Brian Callahan as a head coach did not do a good job of fielding out his I guess coaches when it comes to this staff, because that's honestly what's really hurt him in a roundabout way. Obviously his play calling and stuff like that, decision making, but when your decision making kind of failing you at some point, you have to rely on your guys underneath you. And has he done that? If he has, then that's just bad coaching underneath him.
Yeah, and we mentioned it last year, even before the season started, that like, was it the best idea to have a first-time head coach, first-time play caller, hire first-time offensive coordinator, first-time defensive coordinator, first-time special teams coordinator? Probably not. And we've seen him be overwhelmed. It's kind of a fun conversation. We'll pull a little like Chasing Big Joe here and just poll the audience. What is the first interview question you'd be asking a Titans head coaching candidate after the Brian Callahan era? 615-737-1025 if you have answers. So again, like there's been plenty of snafus with Brian Callahan so far. It feels like it wouldn't be that hard to have easy answers to some of these situations, but who knows?
Are you good at Madden football? Because if you are, you're qualified. Because everyone that's good at playing Madden football is going to be a great head coach in the NFL. It's just science.
Well, Woody Johnson, I think, would say that is true. I mean, he's trying to get his Jets team up to a 99 overall.
I mean, come on now. I mean, could you imagine if somebody walked into an interview process and was like, Rex Road again, sorry. If I was playing Madden and I walked in, here's my call sheet, and I just took screenshots from my TV. Could you imagine that? That'd be hilarious.
I'm going to run 4 verticals 8 times a game.
Give me the shock H option, and it's going to be a fade route to the receiver.
Yeah, slot fade on the shock option.
Yeah.
I'm going to run 3 plays exclusively.
What's your play call on 3rd and 8? You're playing the San Francisco 49ers in Levi Stadium. It's 3rd and 8 on your own 40. What's your play call?
4 verts. 4 verts every time.
Read option, the edge glitches. I'll be able to go out wide.
Halfback slip screen. Those are the 3 plays we're calling as the new era of the Tennessee Titans. Again, yeah, if you have thoughts, let us know. What's your first interview question to a Titans head coaching candidate when they're looking for Brian Callahan's replacement? Lots of good ones. What constitutes a catch, I think, would be probably one of the first ones out of my mind. Hi, can you recite every word of the NFL rulebook for us real quick? Old Chandrillan on the YouTube chat says, do you know how to execute a screen pass? That's a good one too. The screen passes have not been good early on this year at the very least. And I remember last year, it might have been the first Colts game where I thought Brian Callahan actually had a really good sequence on the first drive of the game where he threw 2 wide receiver screens early on. And I was kind of wondering in my mind, I'm like, man, he just ran that exact same play earlier. Why are we running it again? Because the second time it got stuffed for like 1 yard. And then a few plays later, fake the screen, guy goes deep, touchdown. I believe it was NWI caught the touchdown. It's like, okay, you can see that he can do it as a play caller, but there just hasn't been enough of those moments for Brian Callahan. A lot of it is execution. Like, the roster is not good, but it brings me back to the question we talked about earlier. Like, is it 3-17 bad? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I think it might be. I think this 3-17 is a true 3-17. I think it's just that bad.
No, I understand. I'm saying, like, they've played bad enough to be 3-17, but like, if you gave this roster to a competent coach, would they win more than 3 games? I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think Brian Callahan, yes, you can blame the bad team for a lot of the issues, but he deserves plenty of his own blame as well.
If you gave this team to Kyle Shanahan, I say he has 4 to 5 wins.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I mean, yeah, I don't think anybody was making the playoffs with this roster, but like, I think you could look like you know what you're doing a little bit more. Alex on the YouTube chat says, are you bringing relatives with you? Will your dad be joining us on the coaching staff?
No, absolutely not.
And I that one just confounds me all the time. Like, how is Bill Callahan not better in Nashville? Like, he is a legendary offensive line coach. How has he just not been able to figure it out with this group?
You know, I've thought about that a few times as well. Could it just be he's out of his prime as a coach?
Right.
Is that possible?
Or maybe he doesn't want to fully do things his own way because he doesn't want to step on his son's toes. Like, I don't know. We're not in the room every single day, but it's just so strange that a guy with such a pedigree of, not having the most talent on an offensive line, but finding a way to make them work together as a group and be productive. And that just hasn't happened here.
What if it's the other way? What if Bill Callahan is basically puppets on a string for his son?
I don't think so.
I mean, you never know.
Bill Callahan, the man behind the curtain.
I'm just saying, because all these conversations are kept behind closed doors.
That is true.
Just saying.
He said that a lot. Dustin from Hopkinsville says, will you fight every opposing coach on the opposite sideline for my team? And the answer better have the most run through a wall because the team's going to follow that, mimic his personality. I want a dog again. With that being said, obviously Miami's coach isn't getting interviewed. Are you sure you don't want to see Mike McDaniel bare knuckle brawling with
No.
Mike Vrabel?
No.
615-025 is the phone number. More to come on the Titans throughout the show. We asked the 3-17 bad. We'll look at the roster coming up in the final hour of the show. Who are we confident is going to be part of the core that will get this team competitive again? Talk about that later. We got to start looking ahead at Saturday night because it might be the best Saturday night. Next, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Going to get back into the Titans in the final hour of the show, but we have a big college football weekend coming up. We've got maybe a rematch of last year's Big Ten championship between Penn State and Oregon. And we got Georgia, Alabama, with Bama needing a win. If Bama wins that game, start to put them back in the playoff conversation. And they're both going on at the same time. How are we going to give both these games the attention they deserve? Is this a multi-screen at home kind of night? Is this a go out to the bar and watch both of them? I don't know how we can give both these games our full and undivided attention.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be a multi-screen type of weekend, Jake. I'm all for the 6 box is what we're doing, or the octo box, the 8 box, something like that. There's no way you can, consume all this, at different times. You got to do it all at once.
Right.
Overstimulate your body a little bit.
It's tough. I am glad Vandy plays at 11:45. So I'll be out there at First Bank Stadium in the morning and into the afternoon, but should be home by halftime of LSU Ole Miss. By the way, you see the bulletin board material getting posted for LSU Ole Miss?
Landry Kiffin.
Yeah, Lane. Apparently this was well known, and I did not know this. I guess Landry Kiffin didn't officially announce this yesterday, but it was the first time it went mainstream that she is dating LSU linebacker Whit Weeks. And the tweet yesterday from Lane Kiffin had me laughing out loud in my apartment last night. Just sitting there where I guess one guy was like, wow, Lane Kiffin's daughter is dating LSU's linebacker. This reeks of the over. And Lane Kiffin responds, take the over. So that's going to be a fun one. That's at 2:30 on ABC. And then I mentioned the 2 games later. Actually, you know what? While we're here, 3:15 on SEC Network.
Yes.
Tennessee, Mississippi State.
War.
Right. I have to make one public service announcement. All right. How on God's green earth are my Mississippi State Bulldogs not ranked? You beat Arizona State, who was ranked 12th at the time. I get it. You struggle a little bit against Northern Illinois. That's nothing to worry about. They ended up winning that game 38-10, whatever it was. That's fine. They're not blowing teams out like Vandy 70-14 is what it was.
70-21.
70-21. Like putting up a 70 burger. I get that. Tennessee's a good ball club. All right. I'm fine with that. This is going to be a good ball game. But I'm a little hurt and disrespected that the AP poll and coaches poll, neither of them wanted to put Mississippi State in top 25.
Preach it, Frazier. It's because the AP poll's corrupt, man. They don't actually watch the games.
No.
That video from Haley Sawyer just represents perfectly what the AP poll does. They sit back and they sip their coffee and they button their suits all the way up to the top where they can barely breathe, and they go and they hang out at the country club. They don't watch the games. I watch them. I have Mississippi State ranked. It's okay. I respect the Bulldogs.
There's an Ohio State reporter who has an AP poll vote that doesn't have Tennessee in the top 25. I don't understand how that works. And then it's funny. There was one poll that had Vandy in the top 10 last week, and then they win 70-21 and they move them out of the top 10. It's like, it'll never make sense to me. Mississippi State is just outside of the top 25. They are the second highest team receiving votes.
Look, if Mississippi State loses on Saturday, I get that. That's fine. They'll probably drop way down where they won't be ranked until like later on in the season, whatever it may be. But it's not for Mississippi State's resume. It's for Tennessee's resume if they end up beating Mississippi State. On paper, it'll be a good ball game back and forth, but everybody's going to look at, was it a ranked Mississippi State team? Probably not. And they weren't, obviously.
Well,
so that kind of hurts them a little bit.
Just in terms of losses, like Tennessee can't afford to lose this game.
Right.
Because if you lose this game, you have to run the table the rest of the way. You've got to beat Alabama. You got to beat Oklahoma. You got to beat Vanderbilt. All ranked games coming up the rest of the way. So this is a big game on the road. The cowbells will be clanging. That is a 3:15 kick on the SEC Network. The Tony versus PK Bowl.
I'm so in awe that Blake Shapen, after his little injury last year, has decided to show up and play football.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I think Jeff Lebby now has fans bought in. I just had to believe it to see it. I said it a few weeks back that I think this team's going to go bowling. Obviously, now being 4-0, it feels pretty comfortable doing that. Brennan Thompson, the wide receiver they got, transfer wide receiver, one of the fastest in all of the nation. He's been showing up as well. So I'm excited for this game. I'm intrigued to see how Tennessee matches up in Starkville if they can handle the chaos, but that's just we're gonna have to see at 3:15.
6:30 on Saturday night. On NBC and Peacock, Oregon, Penn State. Number 6 Ducks, number 3 Nittany Lions. 6:30 on ABC. Number 17 Alabama, number 5 Georgia. I'm looking at these ticket prices. They have them listed on the ESPN. Like, you've got a couple big ones. Auburn, Texas A&M, 157 is the get-in price. LSU Ole Miss is a little over $200. To get into Oregon, Penn State for the whiteout game in Beaver Stadium is $385. Just to get in. One ticket. Alabama, Georgia at Sanford Stadium in Athens, $425. That is how good these games are this weekend. And I got to say, for the Penn State game, James Franklin, this is a game you have to win.
Yeah.
Like, you are the number 3 team in the country. You're at home for a whiteout, which, by all regards, one of the best atmospheres in all of the country. A whiteout at Penn State is so tough to play at. You got to win this game. If you're going to prove the allegations that you can't win the big one wrong, this is one you have to win. Prove that you are a college football playoff contender. That's a big one. And then Alabama, Georgia. If Alabama goes to 2-2 with Vandy coming in next week, that becomes a must-win game for Kalen DeBoer, or he will be packing his bags. Now, it might be a must-win either way, but Alabama, it's going to be tough going to Sanford Stadium. I know they won last year in Tuscaloosa in what was an instant classic between the Tide and the Bulldogs. This one, Alabama's got to play desperate. Georgia, we saw against Tennessee, Georgia's beatable. But this one it's between the hedges, going to be a tough one for the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, Alabama definitely have their backs against the wall going into this. I mean, if Ryan Williams ends up showing up and playing well,
right,
I think they have a good chance at beating Georgia. But Georgia and Nate Frazier, not my cousin, but we have the same last name. You could say he's my cousin around that way. Great run game with him in Georgia. I think he's a good running back. I think Georgia figured some things out offensively when it came to playing Tennessee, that they should utilize the tight end position a little bit more, and they did. And so if they do that against Alabama, I think they'll put Alabama in a blender.
I like it. I can't wait to watch these games. 6:30 Saturday night. You're going to have to dual screen it. You can't miss either of them. Oregon, Penn State, Alabama, Georgia. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Luke is on the line wanting to chime in. Luke, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
What do you think is more egregious, that Notre Dame is ranked with a 1-2 record, or that Mississippi State is sitting on the outside looking in?
Well,
that's a good question.
Luke, I can answer that question easy for you. There's a lot of TV money involved with Notre Dame, and I heard Kirk Herbstreit on, I think it was College Game Day last weekend. He's predicting that Notre Dame wins out, and it's primarily because they have that individual playoff, TV contract, whatever it is with Notre Dame. They get all that money in there. So I think that's the only reason why they're ranked 22, because the rest of their schedule is pretty easy for them to win out. I mean, they look at A&M, and then you look at the Miami losses. If those two teams end up having one loss in their schedule making the playoff, it only bodes well for Notre Dame. As a Mississippi State guy, yeah, it does suck. I would say it hurts more to see Notre Dame in there, but I understand why.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I think Notre Dame, you're a 2-loss team, but you lost basically on the last play of the game to 2 top 10 teams. So I understand why they're still ranked, but also I don't see another 2-loss team getting any votes whatsoever, which, yeah, Notre Dame, the strength of schedule should play a factor, but yeah, if you flipped Mississippi State and Notre Dame, I feel like the poll looks pretty good, actually.
Also, why in the world is Illinois ranked?
Yeah.
They lost by 50 last week.
You lose 63-10. Usually that is grounds to knock you out of the poll. Like, you got Auburn and Mississippi State sitting right there. I think both those teams deserve to be in, probably over Notre Dame and Illinois. We've got some Illinois, Indiana bias, Big Ten bias in the poll.
I would say it only bodes well for USC, because you look at their resume, they're probably going to handle Illinois, handedly by 20 points.
Yeah.
Illinois, I mean, USC is a good ball club. Like, I watched them take on Michigan State last week as I was putting up stuff in the backyard. That team is hitting on all cylinders. That they just throw the ball well. They move the ball just fluidly. I just think that's something to watch out for. USC is a top 10 team coming up.
I do like USC. Jaden Maeva is a good player. Lincoln Riley, he had a lot of weight on his shoulders coming into this year to try and prove that he can be the guy there. And so far, they've gotten off to a good start. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. News in college basketball yesterday. Bruce Pearl retiring. And the timing of this, I think, is going to start to become a trend across college basketball. We'll get into that. Also, Paul Kaharski tweeting about 20 minutes ago that Brian Callahan is going to speak briefly to reporters ahead of coordinators today. He doesn't usually talk on Tuesdays. So we'll keep an eye on that, see if there is nothing or if there's a reason he's speaking on a Tuesday for the first time this year. We will talk some Bruce Pearl coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Wrapping up hour number 2, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. I wanted to get into Bruce Pearl here, but I might audible with the news that Brian Callahan's going to speak at the top of the hour. And I'm wondering what it could be. Like, obviously, he's not announcing his own firing. Like, it's nothing that big. I think he's going to give up play calling.
Interesting.
Like, I think that's the plan, and I think it's a last-ditch effort from Brian Callahan to save his job. We'll see if it works out, but I can't think of anything else that it would be that would cause Brian Callahan to speak before the coordinators, because I'm sure that he wants to get that out there before Nick Holtz speaks. Anything else that it could be?
I mean, maybe he mentions Bill Hardegree's calling plays besides Nick Holtz. Like, that's the only other audible I could think of. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a joke that we kind of talked about in the break. Maybe he's getting an extension, but we all doubt
Yeah,
that.
I saw a tweet of like Callahan's announcing his own extension through 2029. Maybe it's a clarification on something. Like maybe there's something he said yesterday that he wants to get out in front of and correct, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. And like, honestly, wouldn't that be something he'd just have his comm staff do? Like they could just tell the reporters who are there, like, hey, before we start the weekly press conference with the coordinators, Coach Callahan said this yesterday. He wanted to clarify, blah, blah, blah. Like, I feel like you don't need to step up and actually say something. So I think he's going to give up play calling, which I get it. It's like, if you want to save your job, you do whatever you can, but I don't think this is going to end up mattering in the long run, except for what we see from Cam Ward. Like, man, it's kind of a lose-lose situation for Callahan, right? Because it's like either the play calling is still bad, you're still bad, and you get fired, or the play calling immediately gets better and people are like, then why have you been calling plays this entire time if you had no idea what you were doing? It's kind of, there's really no winning for Brian Callahan if he does announce that.
And honestly, like, again, we've joked about like, what does Nick Holtz really do? Like, if it is Nick Holtz getting the green light to call plays and it does work out for him or it doesn't work out for him, whatever it may be, say the writing is on the wall for Callahan to be gone in the next couple of weeks. Maybe this is Callahan saying, hey, you're one of my friends I grew up with, played high school ball with, get some reps at calling plays. Maybe there's another job out for you there after I'm gone. And maybe if you're going with me, like, we can go our separate ways and maybe you find an OC job somewhere else, you know? Like,
yeah. Like,
that's the only thing I can think of as well.
I think it's a last ditch effort. I think it's a desperation effort for him to try and save his job. And we'll see. They actually are going to air this live. So we will bring this to you live at 11 a.m. and hear what he has to say. But Brian Callahan going to speak to the media, an unscheduled appearance that has popped up ahead of the coordinators. The only thing I can think of is he's giving up play calling, but we will see what he has to say coming up at 11. We do have a couple minutes. I do want to touch on Bruce Pearl while we have a chance here. Bruce Pearl announces yesterday that he is resigning as the head coach of Auburn basketball, and his son, Steven, is going to take over as the interim head coach. We saw this last year with Tony Bennett, where he waited until the season officially started and practices started, and then he announced he was stepping down. I think this is going to start to be a trend in college basketball of these coaches want to be able to pick their successor. So they're going to wait until it is too inconvenient for the athletic department to do a coaching search so they can just say, oh, well, I'm stepping down. Here's your coach. And Bennett did it last year. I believe the guy Bennett brought in got fired, I think. So, or not fired, but like was not retained as the permanent head coach.
Right.
I don't know if they'll do that with Bruce Pearl's son, but I just thought it was interesting. Like Bruce Pearl doing the exact same thing as Bennett last year, waiting till the last possible second and then announcing it. And now his son, the head coach at Auburn.
I mean, good for Bruce Pearl. If he's content with this, hey, happy for you, man. But, you know, there's the whole rumors about him, you know, running for Senate and all that, like outside of basketball. If this has some, you know, factors into it, we'll see. I think he addressed some media yesterday or earlier today about that.
They asked him if he was going to run for Senate.
Yeah.
And he said no.
Yeah. So again, who knows?
It's very interesting that coaches have started to do this. And I guess you can only do it when you've gotten to a certain level of respect. Cause like if you're a bad coach and you're just going to resign, they're not going to let you pick your successor. They're going to figure it out. But for Tony Bennett, who obviously had won a national championship, Bruce Pearl's taken Auburn to 2 Final Fours. It's like you kind of have given yourself this leeway of, guess what? If I want to step down a month before the season, I can, I will, and I'm going to tell you who the head coach is going to be. And we're seeing it more and more. These guys are trying to set up their kids to be head coaches. Bill Belichick setting up. I mean, it's in the contract that his son, also Steven, is going to be the head coach at UNC when he decides to move on. So nepotism at its finest.
I guess, I don't know. That's good negotiating.
Right.
It is.
I mean, I guess it's true. Bruce Pearl found some leverage, and now his son is going to be coaching an Auburn team that went to the Final Four last year. I did see Chad Baker Mazzara put out on his Instagram story. Also, Chad Baker Mazzara, the 26-year-old playing college basketball.
Yeah, I think he turns 27 this year.
Yeah, he said, now you know why. So I guess that's why he transferred, because he's at USC now.
Interesting.
With the importer, Eric Musselman. So anyway, just quick thoughts there on Bruce Pearl stepping down. Heck of a career for Bruce Pearl. Lots of controversy in there. But, 2 Final Fours with Auburn, nearly got them to the national championship in 2019 if it wasn't for a horrible call that allowed UVA to advance. But we won't get into that. But he steps down, and we are going to see his son take over an Auburn team that hopes to contend again. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Big news in the last 20, 30 minutes. Brian Callahan is going to speak at 11 o'clock. And on our YouTube chat, Alex asked, could he be resigning? Could Callahan's dad be stepping away? I mean, he's not stepping up there to resign.
No, you're just throwing away money.
I don't think he's going to step up there and say that I'm not going to coach the team anymore. But maybe it's Bill. I don't know. Most likely it's that he's giving up play calling, and we are going to hear from him live coming up. Brian Callahan, an unscheduled appearance with the media. He's going to speak ahead of the coordinators coming up at 11 o'clock. We will bring that to you live and in its entirety to let you know what Brian Callahan could be announcing, clarifying, whatever he's going to do with this media session. That's coming up next as we start off hour number 3 of the program. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Final hour on this Tuesday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Impromptu press conference coming for Brian Callahan over at St. Thomas Sports Park. Not announced until about 30 minutes ago that he was going to be speaking ahead of his coordinators. We don't know what this is about. We are going to play it for you live in its entirety. We are speculating right now. Again, no confirmation from anyone that Brian Callahan may be giving up play calling duties. If he does, we will also bring you Nick Holtz at the podium because, you would guess that would be something interesting as he takes over as a first-time play caller. So we are waiting for Brian Callahan to step to the podium. I would understand the decision to give up play calling. I don't think it's going to save his job because, again, you bring in this guy as Brian Callahan as a play caller so that you have continuity on the offensive side of the ball for your young quarterback. That's why you hired him. But I also understand that, like, in a desperation move to try and save your job, it might make sense. And he does have to be better at the big picture stuff, the decision-making during the game, and not calling plays, I think, would make that a lot easier for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep delegating things, man. Like, if you delegate to other people, your job will be a little bit easier. Like, that's what you have a staff for. I'm sorry. That's what you have a staff for.
Right.
So, I don't know. Hopefully this is the case where it is Nick Holtz taking over play calling, because in my opinion, Callahan be basically telling the media in a message in a roundabout way, this is what the play calling is when I'm not calling it. And say if it is bad, goes back to him.
Right. I mean, I'm sure Nick Holtz and Callahan have similar philosophies, and maybe it's just like, hey, if I can delegate this to you, I can notice that Alec Iamaner's elbow is in bounds, and instead of having to get the next play call in, I can actually take a deeper look and talk to people about it and challenge that play. Like, I understand why he would do it, but again, I don't think this is going to be some kind of revolutionary thing that's going to turn this team around. But it feels like a last-ditch effort to try and save his job.
Now, when that is said, he's up, never mind.
Let's go out to St. Thomas Sports Park. Brian Callahan at the podium now.
Yeah, this app's just giving me a little, wait. No, we're good. Thank you, though. Appreciate it.
So I said yesterday, a lot of things under evaluation, and a lot of things that you self-reflect on at the start that we've had so far, and things that we got to get better at. And one of the things that I think is going to help our football team, help me be a better head coach for our team, is I'm going to hand over the play calling to Bo. And part of that process is, part of the decision making in that process is that, Bo's been had some interim experience calling. He's been on the rookie quarterback before. That part of it will make it a little bit seamless in that regard. The other part of it is that our offensive staff and our game planning process and system is going to remain in place. It's still a collaborative process. We rely on everybody to do their part. Nick is still the offensive coordinator. He'll still maintain his same exact routine and process that he's gone through to help me. And then Bo is going to step in as a play caller on Sunday. It'll allow me to do a little more with our team and with all three phases, pay more time and attention to those things and less in the weeds of getting ready to game plan. And one of the things I told the team and told the players after our game is that, look, everyone owns a mirror, right? We can all look at it. We can all see where we need to be better and what can help us be better. And I think this is one of the best things for us at the moment to help me do a better job as a head coach and be more present and available for the football team and less involved in just the day-to-day minutia of getting ready to call a game. So I think it's going to be positive for us. I think it'll help. And I think at the end of the day too, for our players, it's the same thing. As if there's nothing I love more than offensive game planning and calling plays. And for me to be able to do this for the betterment of our team and to put us in better position, I think we should get the same from everybody that's involved in the process.
How did Nick take it when you decided to jump over him and go to Bo?
He took it well. He's a professional. He understands that's the way that these things go sometimes, but his role isn't changing in terms of what he's doing and how he's doing it. His role in the process, his role on game day, all those things are exactly the same as they were before. And again, the play calling thing sometimes gets a little bit overblown, if you will, because everyone's got a role, and we all got to process. Bo's still in charge of the third down game plan, and Tyke and Mike McCoy do the red zone, and Nick does all the base downs, and Randy does the screens. And so all those things are all going to stay the same. It doesn't change that process any bit whatsoever. It's just, the plays are at the end of the day on Sunday coming out of somebody else's mouth. I'll be still very present in the process. I'm involved in it, but it's going to allow me to do more around the team and around in both other phases besides offense and special teams and defense. So it's not really, to me, at the end of the day, it's pretty normal in this league for things like this. This isn't some seismic shift or crazy change. It's just trying to help me do my job a little better and let some other people take on a little bit more.
You were hired largely because you were a play caller. Yep. So it seems like a self-demotion, if you will, or whatever. What's kind of your feeling at needing to give it up when it was a big part of the reason that you were the choice?
Yeah, again, it's a pretty easy thing to do when it comes to trying to help the football team win and do the best thing for, what the job is. I got hired to be the head coach, and part of that process was being involved on offense, but my job is to be the head coach of the football team. And I think that this allows me to do that job a little bit better, pay more attention to some things that might require my attention and be more present. So all those things are normal. I think it's all part of, where we're at. We're 0-3, and so we're trying to get better. And I think that's my same message to the players as it is here right there at this podium.
So it sounds more as if it's more about you trying to get more of a big picture feel for yourself as it is to kind of a disappointment in your play calling. Is that?
Yeah, I have zero disappointment in my play calling. I mean, I don't have any disappointment in that at all. But it's just more so I can see the rest of it, see the big picture better, and do a better job of it.
Talk about, I guess, two parts of coaching: schematic and then position coach, dealing with technique, fundamentals, and all that. How will Bo kind of divide his time and trying to do both well?
Well, that's why we have a whole staff still. That's why I'm still involved in it. I think that everybody still has. That's why nothing's changed. There's no disruption to the routine. There's no disruption to the weekly process. That's all the same. The system doesn't change. We're still going to run the offense we've worked and repped and invested our time and energy into for the last, whatever it is, almost 2 years. And that's not going to change any. And so Bo's still going to coach the quarterback. That's still a part of his job. Again, he's taken over the play calling responsibility on Sunday. So he'll have to be in a couple more things that maybe he wasn't involved in directly as the quarterback coach, but the roles and the processes are still in place. And he's got a lot of help and a lot of people here that do a really good job to help put him in position to call the game Sunday.
Nothing will change, but how will that work going forward as far as Bo working with Cam Ward, as far as what plays he wants up, wants down, and that whole overall conversation?
All the same. Those conversations happen with all of us anyway. I'm in that quarterback room with those guys, and they were all a part of it, both Bo and Nick. I mean, those guys are together all day long and with the quarterback. So that doesn't change any. Those conversations weren't private to me only. I mean, those guys were all in the mix. So again, it should, the disruption to what is happening and how we do it is going to be very minimal.
This is related to what some of the issues that you discussed yesterday. Some of the questions surrounding you, and the decisions in the first 3 weeks. Is this the kind of thing that you want to?
I think it's less of that. I mean, that's all a part of the process, certainly. But yeah, I think it's more just so I can be a better head coach and not just an offensive play caller. I think that's the biggest thing I think that's what we need right now. And that's my job to make that decision and put myself in that spot to help us win football games. And like I said before, I don't have any preconceived notions about it. I've been open about, if this was the best thing for us, then I would do it. And I think that at the moment, that's where we're at.
Would you consider Mike, given that he's got the most experience as a play caller?
Yeah, there was consideration, certainly. Mike's been in the role here just for a shorter amount of time, and he's a very valuable piece for me. Mike's been both from a schematic standpoint and a personal standpoint. He's been phenomenal, and I think that, again, the idea was to try to take as much disruption and minimize that for the process. And I think everybody's got a really good role on offense right now. They know what's expected. They know how to do it. They've done a really nice job. So trying to keep as much disruption away from that as possible and feel good about where we're at.
What makes Bo a good coach? And And were you afraid you might even lose him at some point this offseason?
I mean, Bo interviewed with some teams for some coordinator jobs. He's widely respected around the league. I got a lot of respect for how he goes about his business. I know the type of coach he is. I know what he's capable of, and I know how he goes about his process. So all those things are all really positive for us, and I'm glad we have him. And I think he's going to do a really good job.
You and Chad and Mike have been pretty open about the way that you lean on each other. How much of discussions with those guys led to making this decision?
Yeah, that's all part of the process. We communicate daily. We talk about everything. There's nothing that goes on over the course of the day that I don't have a conversation with both of those guys at different points, sometimes together. But our communication, I think, is what leads to our strength and our ability to operate. And these jobs sometimes require, some self-reflection and decisions that maybe sometimes personally you struggle with, and you got to look real hard at yourself and do what's best for the team. And I think that's ultimately what where we're at and what we're trying to do is we want to win. We want to win games, and we want to put our team in great position to do so. And that's what the fun in this profession is. It's not fun losing football games, and we want to put ourselves in a better spot. And I think that's was all part of the discussion.
So is that something that they suggested or just endorsed?
No, that's something. This is something that I felt like would help us the most. And we talked through it. I think we talked through pros, cons, all those things, and ultimately at the end of the day, felt like this was going to be the best thing for our football team moving forward, and allow us to allow me to do a better job as a head coach, and allow our coaches to coach, and our players to play. And I think that's the general mindset from the whole thing. And again, this isn't like it happens. It's happened all the time. This is not an abnormal process for guys in these roles, and for how these processes work, and trying to be better at the end of the day. And that's all I ask of our players. And I'm no different. So I'm trying to do a better job at the job that I have.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Brian Callahan announcing he is giving up play calling, maybe not to the person we thought it would be. He skips over Nick Holtz, gives it to Bo Hardegree, the quarterback's coach, who does have more experience as a play caller than Nick Holtz. 615-737-1025. We want your reaction. Brian Callahan announces he is giving up play calling after 3 games this season, heading into this weekend's game against the Texans. We will give our reaction coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up. You're on 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Brian Callahan just announced that Bo Hardegree is going to take over as the play caller, the Titans quarterback coach, not the offensive coordinator, going to be calling plays from here on out. Lots of reaction to Brian Callahan's announcement. I wanted to get back to one of the answers that Brian Callahan had here. And Paul Kaharski, I thought, asked an important question because it was what we were wondering when the Titan, when it looked like they were making this announcement. We were speculating he might be giving up play calling. Is Brian Callahan was hired here because he was supposed to be the offensive guru. Paul Kaharski with a very good question of asking, like, you were hired because of your play calling ability. What does that mean for you now? Here is what Brian Callahan had to say.
It seems like a self-demotion, if you will, or whatever. What's kind of your feeling at needing to give it up when it was a big part of the reason that you were the choice?
Yeah, again, it's a pretty easy thing to do when it comes to trying to help the football team win and do the best thing for, what the job is. I got hired to be the head coach, and part of that process was being involved on offense, but my job is to be the head coach of the football team. And I think that this allows me to do that job a little bit better, pay more attention to some things that might require my attention and be more present. So all those things are normal. I think it's all part of, where we're at. We're 0-3, and so we're trying to get better. And I think that's my same message to the players as it is here right there at the podium.
That was Brian Callahan talking about how his job is to be the head coach, and he hasn't been very good at that so far this year. The hope is that he can improve on that without the play calling duties on his plate. I believe Bo Hardegree is at the podium right now. Let's take a quick listen into that and see what Bo Hardegree has to say after being promoted to play caller.
Decision yesterday, and we talked about some things. And again, he's involved. Everybody's still involved. That's the good thing with the stability of everything. The workflow is that, and then it's just the only change is just me calling on Sunday.
I know it's fresh, but the conversation with Nick Holtz, Mike McCoy, obviously they're going to help you. How has that been so far?
It's been great. We all work together. This is it's obviously one of the best staffs I've ever been on. I mean, these guys that draw from their experiences, draw from my experience. They're all from different places, but again, it's all about the players and putting them in the best spots. And you only get a certain amount of calls on Sunday, and just got to hit on those. And they
called plays before. Like, where are you as far as weighing analytics versus your gut? I know like different guys have different.
Absolutely, but some things always come down to where you are in the game. I mean, there's so many different scenarios you can go through. Obviously, analytics help you get out ahead of it, right? You can look at that, where you are in the game, where's the players, what type of game has it gone to? There's obviously the game's changed quarter to quarter, half to half. But yeah, all that goes into it, and really you have, just a couple seconds to make that call. So
you've been on the field, and Nick and Mike upstairs, correct? Is all those logistics things?
Yeah, we're going to kind of take it day by day this week, kind of make a decision on kind of what's best spot for the team and for myself.
Relationship dating back to the spring. Just what have you done to build that closeness, and how would you say he's kind of put into that relationship too?
Yeah, really just try to earn his trust to where I can coach him hard, and he has that trust in me, and keep building him. He's a young player. He's really smart. He takes in a lot of stuff. He's there's things that, the wins aren't there, but for me and his development, the things I've seen him do from the first game to this previous game is some of the things he's been able to do is incredible. From protection standpoint, from getting us into a better play, maybe out of a bad play into a better play, handling the run game, all that stuff's been great, and he's learning, situational football, as the ball is moving, where are we at on the field, what do I need to do, he's learning, hey, I can't hold on to the ball, I got to get the ball out of my hands, take less hits, find completions. So it's great.
You talked about getting ready for the Texans. What's the challenge for you as calling plays for this team for the first time going against that defense?
Yeah, it's a new challenge every week for an offense. You obviously see, who the game wreckers are. You deal with those first. Where are the advantages for us in the defense? Is it personnel standpoint, schematics? What are our guys doing well? What do we need to do more of? But it's more about us than them.
In your mind, what are some of the things you have to do to protect a rookie quarterback from themselves that maybe you wouldn't have to protect a veteran from?
Yeah, just constant subtle reminders throughout the game. You can be in their back pocket until 15 seconds, on the clock is making it easy for him, whether at home or away, and getting him up there, letting him get to the line of scrimmage, take a deep breath, whether the play matters that he needs to know a certain coverage or not, he's able to see the defense every snap, kind of know where we are in a game, and just kind of be in his back pocket there to that last 15 seconds.
Part of what Brian just talked to us about was how taking this off his plate is going to allow him to be more involved with the other things going on, especially on Sundays. We see you on the sideline in Cam's hip pocket every week. With you having to now have that on your plate, how do you think logistically that will change your ability to be with him, and does that allow Brian to spend more time with him?
I think all of the above. We're all in this together. I'll still be there with him, and then there'll be some times where I gotta, go talk to a position group or two about some things going on in the game, or where we're going to go with it and kind of communicate, so they can anticipate what's going to be called in the first couple plays, the next third down, things like that. But again, drawing from prior experiences, that's helps out.
I don't think that'll negatively impact the attention that Cam is getting.
No, I think Cam's gonna be just fine.
I appreciate you both.
Yeah, thanks. So.
That was new play caller Bo Hardegree talking to the media after Brian Callahan announced that he would take over play calling duties. Brian Callahan struggling with some of the game management decisions of being a head coach, so he's taking play calling off of his plate. Bo Hardegree takes over, and Brian Callahan mentioned that one of the big reasons they chose Bo over Nick Holtz was the play calling experience. Bo Hardegree was the interim offensive coordinator for the Las Vegas Raiders in 2023, and here's how he did. He took over at the beginning of November, immediately put up 30 against the New York Giants, then 16, 13, 17 in 3 straight, 0 in a 3-0 game against Minnesota. Strange one there. Then put up 63 against the Los Angeles Chargers on Thursday Night Football. So some good, some bad for Bo Hardegree. Again, this is all without any kind of context, but that's just the point totals that he had during his time as the play caller. His last 3 games, 20, 20, and 27. So overall, not bad. Has some experience with it. He said that they're going to work on whether he's going to be on the field, whether he's going to be in the booth, but obviously does add some to his plate where he can't be helping Cam Ward out all the time, like he talked about in that press conference.
Right. I mean, under play calling with Callahan, he was 31st in yards per game, tied for 32nd with touchdowns scored in a game. Passing yards per game is 32nd. So like they're bottom of the totem pole. Rushing yards at 88.7, 27th, allowing 15 sacks, ranking worse in the league as well. So like the numbers definitely were not trending in the right direction under Callahan calling plays.
Can't get much worse. So, and I think it will be an improvement in terms of, hey, Brian Callahan, when he doesn't have to worry about getting the play call in on every play, can hopefully make better decisions when it comes to going for it on third or on fourth down. What his strategy is going to be late in the first half, late in games. Like, hopefully all of this improves, but we'll see. We played the Paul Kaharski question earlier in this segment of, hey, you were hired pretty much to be the play caller, and now you're not anymore. Does that kind of cheapen what you bring to this organization? And he said, my job's to be the head coach. If Bo Hardegree ends up working out as a play caller, great, but we need to see improvement across the board from this Titans team, and I'm not sure a move like this is going to be enough to change the eventual outcome that we're expecting.
Needle's not moving in the direction people think it is.
Like, this seems like a desperation move. Greg Roberts says this feels like a script he was given to say. And on our text line or our YouTube chat, Alex says the front office probably told him do this or you're fired. I don't know about that, but I think Brian Callahan could start to read the writing on the wall and was like, if I don't change something, I'm just going to keep on going in this direction and we're going to be gone like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if Amy actually told him or if Brinker actually told him you need to give up play calling. I think Brian Callahan's a smart enough guy to realize that, like, if I just keep on with the status quo, I'm not going to be here very long.
No.
So Bo Brian Callahan, mixing them together.
Bo Callahan.
Bo Callahan. Why'd no one show up to his birthday party? Brian Callahan giving up play calling to Bo Hardegree, the Titans quarterback coach, skipping over Nick Holtz. And we'll talk about that on the other side. What does Nick Holtz do? Like, if you're the offensive coordinator and when the head coach gives up play calling duties, you're not the guy they're going to? Interesting. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take your reaction as well. Brian Callahan giving up play calling duties. Bo Hardegree will be the one calling plays moving forward. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Next man up here on 1025 The Game.
How did Nick take it when you decided to jump over him and go to Bo?
He took it well. He's a professional. He understands that's the way that these things go sometimes. But his role isn't changing in terms of what he's doing and how he's doing it. His role in the process, his role on game day, all those things are exactly the same as they were before. And again, the play calling thing sometimes gets a little bit overblown, if you will, because everyone's got a role and we all got a process. Bo's still in charge of the third down game plan, and Tyke and Mike McCoy do the red zone, and Nick does all the base downs, and Randy does the screens. And so all those things are all going to stay the same. It doesn't change that process any bit whatsoever. It's just, the plays are at the end of the day on Sunday coming out of somebody else's mouth. I'll be still very present in the process. I'm involved in it, but it's just going to allow me to do more around the team and around in both other phases besides offense and special teams and defense. So it's not really, to me, at the end of the day, it's pretty normal in this league for things like this. This isn't some seismic shift or crazy change. It's just trying to help me do my job a little better and let some other people take on a little bit more.
That was Brian Callahan just about 30 minutes ago announcing that he will give up play calling duties. Bo Hardegree will take over. Nick Holtz gets skipped over. He said he took it well. He said that his role on game days and in practice will be the same. My question is, what is that role for Nick Holtz? You're the offensive coordinator who didn't call plays in the first place, but now that the head coach gave it up, you're still not calling plays. I understand that there's more intricacies to that than just but that's what a typical offensive coordinator does. If the head coach isn't calling plays, the offensive coordinator is calling plays. In this case, Nick Holtz gets skipped over.
Yeah, and I think it's the right move because I look at Nick Holtz's position, it's just a job title for him. Say if the whole Callahan experiment did work out from week 1 up to now, then that would make Nick Holtz look like a genius as an offensive coordinator. And say if the Titans were to move on from, that's exactly how I feel about the Titans. So just clueless sounds, but it's almost as if you look at Nick Holtz and if it did work out, he'd have a job somewhere else. But now it's all falling apart. And now that he's been skipped over, he's not getting the job anywhere else.
Right.
So that's the whole point of that.
Brian Callahan got this job because things went well under Zach Taylor with Joe Burrow, and he eventually parlayed that into a head coaching job. I guess the hope would be for Nick Holtz that he could do that. But if your own high school teammate, best friend doesn't trust you to call the plays when he's giving them up, you wonder if any NFL team should. I thought this was a good tweet, and this was actually before the announcement was made this morning. Drew Beatty, Iron City Film. It's a good follow if you want any Titans tape and good takes on the Titans. He goes, regarding Callahan giving up play calling duties, if your offensive genius head coach is forced to give up play calling duties, you fire him. End of story. What good could possibly come out of seeing one of the worst in-game managers solely focus on in-game management? And I think that it's the best way to put it. I understand why Callahan's doing it, because the big snafus, the big issues have come from in-game management, but he's supposed to be good at play calling, and now he's not play calling at all. So I don't really understand why you even keeping him around at this point. Robert in Winfield, Alabama texts in, so what happens now that Brian Callahan has handed over play calling duties and the Titans start looking like a whole different team offensively and pull out some wins? Does this move make him look better or worse? And that's what I'm saying is it's kind of a lose-lose for him. Either the team keeps being horrible and he gets fired, or the offense turns it around and you're like, wow, interesting what this offense can do when Brian Callahan's not calling the plays.
Yeah, it could give the team a little bit of a jolt. I mean, I think that's kind of what a lot of people are hoping for. And I think Callahan's hoping that for that exact moment for this team to have a jolt. And maybe, I don't know, when it comes to locker room, like we're talking about early losing the locker room, what do you think a change like this does for that?
I don't know. It's a desperation move. Like we've said that. This is a last-ditch effort. I don't know if the locker room really is going to react too much to this, but this may be in conjunction with all of the other issues that he's had as a head coach has maybe in tandem makes the locker room start to trust him less. Like when you're not challenging the plays right, when you're setting the team up for failure at the end of the half, and now you're giving up play calling duties. Maybe this could be the straw that broke the camel's back. But I don't know if this is going to be a huge deal in the locker room for these guys.
I look at it, it might be just because the point of you have a whole new play caller now. You're just trying to figure out not a lot's changing because Callahan just said it's all going to be the same. They're all going to be collaborating.
Right.
But
he says it's all the same roles. And I'm sure it is. And it's just going to be Hardegree's the one calling the plays. But it definitely is a sign of weakness when you're at this point. And I think it shows that Brian Callahan, he understands the clock's ticking and he's got to change something fast or else he's going to be out the door. We asked the question, what does Nick Holtz do? I believe Nick Frazier cut up this a while ago.
This is engraved into people's brains now.
Yeah, here we go. Here's what Nick Holtz does.
That whole dynamic. Are you in the booth? Are you talking to him? Is that kind of how all that's working?
Yeah. So I pretty much, I got done with the game and my wife's like, God, you look tired. I'm like, yeah, I just talked for 3.5 straight hours all the way through. So I pretty much am either talking directly to Brian or I kind of narrate narrate what's happening. Hey, they're getting safeties down here. You should go the other way, whatever this is. And just kind of, because when you're upstairs, you do have the best view of kind of all the moving pieces and things like that. So that's kind of been my role on Saturday. But I thought the one thing that was great for us is our process offensively, and even as a team, I thought those first preseason games, you want to see the substitutions get in and out, the play calls get in and out, the guys get up. There was not a lot of guys running around kind of looking lost. I thought our tempo in and out was good. Those kind of things of just the mechanics of the offense and the play calling and.
So that was Nick Holtz talking about his game day responsibilities on the Chase and Big Joe show.
Narrates plays.
And I'm sure there's value in that, right? Like I'm sure there's value, but it's really interesting to see the head coach give up play calling and skip over the offensive coordinator. So
it also leads me to think too, the succession plan when this all is all said and done, if Callahan does get canned and Nick Holtz is out the door with him, maybe it's Mike McCoy as an interim and then Bo Hardegree takes over as that OC.
Right.
And then you start promoting other people within.
Maybe that does lend itself to the idea that this was from upper management, because maybe upper management is trying to set themselves up if they do make a move, because it would allow them to say, all right, Callahan and Holtz, you're gone. Hardegree's the new offensive coordinator. You keep Denard Wilson and you can move Mike McCoy in as head coach. Like, I don't know. It's all speculation at this point, but it is just strange. I know Bo Hardegree had the interim play calling experience with the Raiders, but it is strange that, you hire a guy to be your offensive coordinator and you don't trust him to take over as the play caller when you give it up.
I mean, he told on himself in that clip there. He's just narrating the plays and talking to Brian in the headset.
Right.
I mean, I could do that on a video game with some buddies in a group chat. That's all that you do.
Kevin on the text line says, just fire the guy. Now he just gave up his main job, which is why he was hired. Make McCoy or Bones the interim to begin the search for a head coach for next year. Yeah. I mean, it's again, I think this may be the last move. Like you can see if you're playing chess, you're running out of moves. And I think this was his last one before checkmate. We'll see if maybe he's got a rabbit in his hat he can pull out, and maybe Bo Hardegree turns this thing around. But again, it kind of feels like a lose-lose for him, right? Because it's like either it stays bad and everybody gets fired, or it starts looking a lot better on offense and Brian Callahan looks like he was the problem with the offense's execution. So I don't really know how this ends up looking good for Brian Callahan at the end of the year.
Yeah, because of that tweet you talked about earlier about in-game management, like even if the in-game management's not great, but the play calling's good, you're trying to figure out what do you pick and choose from that? It's just it's like going out to eat and you're getting stuff on the appetizer and you don't want to eat this thing and that thing. You start nitpicking which ones you want, being a picky eater. That's essentially what Callahan's job will be.
Yeah. And we'll see if maybe this is the issue that, having too much on his plate is what's caused him to not be able to make the right decisions in these scenarios. But I don't know. I think if he's making these decisions now, it's not like just not having to get the play in is going to immediately make him make better decisions. It might make the conversations easier, which should help, but I don't know. It's going to be an interesting game on Sunday now. Much more interesting than I was expecting it to be, because we get to see what this offense looks like with Brian Callahan not on the joystick.
It comes at an interesting time too, because you look at Houston, who's struggling. You look at Arizona, who's now without James Conner, and you look at the Raiders, who I guess Ashton Genty's had a little bit of a struggle bus in his rookie year so far, but the play overall has not been as great as what they thought it would have been. So this is, like you said, it's an interesting time, but especially for play calling, because you're going up against three teams in a roundabout way are not great.
Again, big news today. Brian Callahan announcing he is giving up play calling. Bo Hardegree will be the play caller moving forward. Nick Holtz stays in his role as offensive coordinator. I do want to mention some other big NFL news. Jackson Dart going to start for the New York Giants this week. So we will get to see another rookie quarterback out there to compete with Cam Ward. Not that I think that should be a topic, because there was never a decision between Cam Ward and Jackson Dart, but we will see Jackson Dart making a start for the Giants this upcoming week. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll continue to react to the news that Bo Hardegree is taking over as the play caller and wrap up the show coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Finishing up the show on this Tuesday, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Chase and Big Joe are coming up after us. Plenty more reaction coming up throughout the day here on 102.5 The Game to the news that Brian Callahan is giving up play calling to Bo Hardegree. So make sure you keep it right here. I'm interested to hear Derek Mason's thoughts on this later on today. So I will be locked in on DVD. Final thoughts from us. I don't understand the idea of the offensive guru head coach that you brought in because he's supposed to be the guy who can revolutionize your offense, bring it into the 21st century, and now he's not calling plays anymore. As we read from Drew Beatty on Twitter, Iron City Film, why are you letting the guy who is a horrible in-game decision maker only focus on in-game decisions?
And I go back to that article that came out with Jeremy Fowler and Teron Davenport about the decision-making of keeping Callahan. If you're now making this delegation, I guess demotion in some regard, to Bo Hardegree calling plays, that only signifies what you should have done this past offseason and not continue with him. I
think the Titans full-on regret not firing Callahan at the end of last year. And I understand why they kept him. You know, it was 1 year. The roster wasn't very good. There was a whole lot else going on. But you look back, hindsight's 2020. They should have cleaned house. They really should have.
It's almost as if Amy just had too much on the books already with former GMs and coaches.
Right.
You're like, I can't fire any of these guys now, right? And you probably should.
You're still here. I think Matthew in Nashville makes a very good point on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Starting Dart for the Giants is a job-saving move by Dable, just like Callahan giving up play calling. Both moves will still likely result in both coaches getting fired, though. And I think that's true. I think both of those guys are making one last-ditch push to try and save their job. For Callahan, it's giving up play calling, seeing if he can focus on just being the head coach. For Dayball, it's let's see if I can develop this quarterback and show that there's a promise for the future, and maybe that saves my job. I still think both are probably gone at the latest by the end of the year.
Yeah, I look at Dable as somebody that's on a longer leash than Callahan, though. I think having a young, promising quarterback, obviously the Titans have one now, but he's starting. They have in Russell Wilson, and we all saw that train wreck happen in Denver. Comes to New York, same train wreck happens.
There's no point in starting Russell Wilson anymore. I mean, if you're the Giants, it's like that team's not going anywhere. See what you got in the young guy, because guess what? If he's good, great. You can start to build around him. But if he's bad, you're going to be in a position to draft his successor next year.
And you make a good point about building around quarterbacks. I'm curious to see what Bo Hardegree does for play calling, because if there's certain tendencies that he likes to call for Cam Ward, say it's more to Alec Alamaner or more to Tyler Lockett, throwing it into the slot, I think that can kind of help develop a certain list of players that you can kind of scout for colleges, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like under Brian Callahan, you couldn't get a good gauge on like what plays what. It went too much to Calvin Ridley. Maybe under Bo Hardegree, it's not all the Calvin Ridley. Maybe it's more spread out. Maybe the run game's a little bit more even keel. I don't know.
I think most likely it's going to look pretty similar. Like, I really don't think it's going to be some large scale difference, but I'll be very interested to see if the offense does start to look competent this week. And who knows what JC Latham's status is? Like, if JC Latham is back, obviously that is a big boost for this offense that opens up the playbook a little bit more. But if the Titans go out and drop 30 on the Texans this week, again, it feels like a no-win situation for Brian Callahan, because if it's better, that makes you look bad. If it's worse, then everybody still gets fired. So I don't know. I don't know what else he could have done, because obviously he had to change something. You can't just stick with the status quo, but I don't really see this changing much in terms of how this is all going to work itself out. John in Hendersonville on our text line says, "Hi guys, the Titans have more problems than play calling. Play design, getting guys open in space, giving time in the pocket, and keeping the defenders guessing matters as well. Who is responsible for this? Head coach, new play caller, offensive coordinator? I'm confused." We're all confused, John. Like, Brian went through and said, Nick's in charge of base downs. Tyke and Mike McCoy are in charge of red zone. Bo is in charge of, was it third down? Something like that. Like, so all of them have their specific game planning responsibilities. But you're right that, like, the specific play call hasn't mattered quite as much as you can't block, your receivers aren't getting open, and that's basically it. I guess scenario-wise, you're not playing to your strengths the best way that you possibly could have. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to change anything, but it's at least good to see that Brian Callahan isn't stubborn enough that he's going to be like, no, I'm going to keep doing it my way. I'm not going to change anything. It's at least good to see that he's willing to make some changes and be flexible to try and improve and save his job.
Yeah. I mean, the one player that I talked about at the beginning of the show and kind of getting to it, you got to do it. You have to do it.
Did you see Robert's text?
No.
Robert just texted in, now is the time to bring up Strep. Why not? Ridley can't catch and Strep is used to Cam's ball.
I'm with
Catch
you,
a
Robert.
Strep, baby.
I'm with you, Robert. I think this is the right move.
I am still not in on Strep.
I mean, dude, here's the deal. He's not the best wide receiver on planet Earth, but when you have chemistry with Cam Ward like that, being, I guess, Miami's all-time leading receiver, I mean, come on.
I loved the idea of bringing him in as an undrafted guy and just see what you got, because there was talk of him being a day 2 pick.
Yeah.
Before the 40 time.
Yeah.
But I had no problem with that. But from what we've seen, I don't know if he's going to help at this point. Maybe down the road, again, if you're 1-8 late in the season, there's no harm. There's really no harm now. But
that's what I'm saying. There's no harm now.
I don't think it's time for the Strep yet. There may be a time for the Strep. I'm not quite there yet. Last text before we get out of here. 7575 says, is there any business influence to the Hardegree decision? Local guy for the local team in the smallest NFL market. I'm no Titans fan, but now I'm interested in seeing the native Tennessean do something for us. I don't think so. Like, I don't think they're making decisions based on, because first of all, most fans aren't deciding whether to come to games based on who's calling the plays. Yeah. Like, it's like, oh man, Bo Hardegree's got the headset on today. I might go to the game. That's not happening. But I do get what you're saying of like, for maybe a common fan, they might be more interested. I don't know.
Yeah. I wouldn't be.
I don't know if I can get fully behind that. People come to see the players play on the field, not the coach's coach. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Make sure to get some texts in for Chase and Big Joe. I'm sure that they are going to be coming in hot after the decision. Brian Callahan demoting himself from play caller. Bo Hardegree will call the plays moving forward.
One more thing before we go.
Yep.
There's potentially some more breaking news brewing. Out of Stillwater, Oklahoma, there are local reports that Mike Gundy has been fired.
Oh, wow.
Nothing official yet, but there are local reports coming out of Stillwater.
We got the text yesterday asking who gets fired first. I guess we might know. Mike Gundy could be out. And again, the Titans with the big news today. Brian Callahan no longer calling plays. Bo Hardegree will. Dr. Crane, thanks as always.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Appreciate you doing double duty. You'll be right on with Chase and Big Joe after us. Corey Curtis from News 2 joins me for the full show tomorrow. We'll have more reaction to the news and get ready for Titans and Texans this weekend. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next. You're on 102.5 The Game.